Are you okay? That was 1978. 5,937 days ago.
Shadyside, a history of horror has earned it the nickname Killer Capital USA.
What's happening to us?
These massacres happen in Shadyside over and over.
You were the only person who survived. How do we end this?
You have to go back to where it all started.
1666.
No, it's Cordkillers. That's where it all starts. Come on!
Welcome to Cordkillers, the show about watching the stuff you love when you want, where you want, however you want. I'm Tom Merritt.
Hey, I'm Brian Brushwood, but most importantly, is this what am I looking at here, Bryce? A trilogy of horror flicks all related to each other?
That's right. This is an upcoming Netflix film, quote, film trilogy event called Fear Street.
They used to call them miniseries.
If the name sounds familiar to you, this is based on the works of R.L. Stine.
Yes!
So these are three movies that represent different decades of this town, this cursed town. The first one is 1998. The second one is 1978. 1994, 1978, and then the last one is 1666. They are coming out one every week starting July 2nd on Netflix. Look for Fear Street.
So that's kind of wild that they're spreading them out, especially since, Netflix is a little bit known for binging. I want to bring in our guest. Tom, who do we have on this episode?
Please welcome to the show, everyone, the host, owner, operator, hero of TV Black Box at tvblackbox.com.au, Steve Molk. Welcome.
Hello, friends. Yes, welcome. Great to be on the show, guys. Thank you for having me.
So, Steve, am I the only one who thinks it's a bit weird to see Netflix spreading stuff out instead of doing the bingy?
Oh, look, I think it is, but I think it's Netflix also taking some cues from the fact that we're seeing this happen way more and the audience keen to see meted out content happen a little more.
So, I don't know. I mean, I understand the logic of it, but I'm just surprised to see it from Netflix.
Well, because it's movies, not a series, it doesn't break the mold. They also do week to week with some of the series that they cooperate on, like things like Star Trek that come out not on Netflix in the US will come out weekly in the other markets.
Yep.
So it's not unheard of with Netflix. My guess is this is a little bit of an experiment to be like, oh, let's try this out. Let's see what data we collect.
And now,
our Netflix library is different to yours in exactly that. We get a lot of content that has been signed for outside of North America, Canada, that lands with us. That is the weekly delivery that it would otherwise be on your Hulu or HBO Max or wherever else in the US. But I think you're right that it's a good tester for Netflix to run some of their original content, particularly films, week to week. And let's be fair, 3 films all at once, you get 3 bites at the cherry if you spread it out.
Yeah, which originally was the justification for, not releasing everything all at once, but instead Netflix correctly and daringly binged everything all at once. But what's funny is the moment, I believe it was Tom that said the word experiment, the moment I heard that, I was like, yes, that's very Netflix, is to constantly be tinkering and playing around with this stuff.
Yeah, capturing data. All right, folks, you might think we already did it, but that's just a taste, just an appetizer. Now it's time for our primary target, which is also about Netflix. Netflix doing some other interesting things beyond content acquisition and production. They announced the first Witcher Con coming July 9th. It'll be an online con, although one presumes that maybe next year it might be in person. Netflix is conducting this in partnership with CD Projekt Red to make it appeal to fans of the video games, as well as the Netflix series and the books. So it'll be all things Witcher. It gives them a little boost because there's already a very well-established fandom of the video games. And of course, season 1 of The Witcher was very popular as well. Netflix also released a teaser for season 2 of The Witcher showing Ciri, the character. One presumes they might start putting out character-oriented teases. They have not released a date for the second season of Witcher. And Netflix has launched its own online store. in partnership with Shopify to sell merchandise related to its shows. Now, Netflix has marketed show-related merchandise in stores. You can find it in Sephora, Target, Walmart, a bunch of places. This is the first time it will sell directly. Netflix.shop. It has limited edition products, high-quality apparel. For example, you'll be able to get stuff tied to The Witcher and Stranger Things that you can't get elsewhere, as well as Netflix logo wear from big fashion houses like Japan's Beams. And at launch, you'll be able to get products based on Yasuke and Eden animated series, as well as clothing inspired by Lupin in collaboration with the Louvre. Brian, they're collaborating with the Louvre.
I have I think a pretty strong take on this, but I want to toss to Steve first with the question of, is this a gross cash grab or an actual service being done for the audience?
I'll take both for $500, thanks.
Right?
That's what Netflix
honestly,
will charge
it's Netflix trying to have a go. They've got to expand their opportunity to make cash. This is a great way to do it. Why would you toss it out to anyone else when now, particularly now, so used to buying stuff online? I'll just go to the Netflix store and get the new Stranger Things hoodie or whatever.
I don't think I used this metaphor before, but I think I have referred to a good brand being like a fractal, but I suddenly realized that the exact metaphor that I was thinking of was the question of what is the distance of the coastline of England? Now, if you use a 1 meter stick, you get one answer, but if you use a 10 centimeter stick, and get more precise, you get a much longer coast, and eventually it becomes...
You also get really frustrated because you keep dropping it because it's so small.
But eventually it becomes infinite, right? So in a world where we know that cons are going to happen around beloved properties, we know that people are going to have clothing related to it, then this is a case where after you've won so hard the way Netflix has won when it comes to the streaming audience, then this is them bothering to pick up the little crumbs that fell off the cake they made. That's two metaphors in one. You're welcome.
Wow. Boom.
Yeah. And we're the ants. I look at this as the natural, and in fact, a small extension of Netflix always trying to grow smart. The fact that Netflix is a streaming service at all was Netflix growing smart, realizing that DVDs aren't going to last us forever. What is the thing that will? And going to streaming. A lot of folks have said that Netflix should take ads. They should have a free version with ads. And Netflix has always deemed that to be something that isn't in their best interest. They're not doing it out of altruism. They're looking at it and saying, no, we don't keep all the money. We would rather have you pay us directly. And so directly you pay them for the service. But this is another way to say, and if you're a huge fan of one of our properties, let's give you more ways. Now, the first step to that was obviously putting it in other stores, but this is saying, let's give you something that's higher quality that you can get from us. And they're smart because they're partnering with Shopify, so they're not inventing the mechanism for the online platform. And they're partnering with these high-end brands like Beams, because they're not the ones who are smart at making apparel, but they're partnering with very high quality people to do it as a way to say, this isn't just, slapping our name on a cheap hoodie. This is high quality stuff, and hoping to get a little bit higher margin out of it for that, I bet.
Man, I wouldn't be surprised if they didn't set up like a Netflix review partner program where you get a bunch of influencers to say, I just got the new hoodie from Stranger Things and I'm trying it on. Look at this. This is a great TikTok. Buy it. I get to use my promo code, so they're able to capture even more crumbs.
Yeah. I'm a huge fan of Yasuke and Beams. And look at this. Now they're both in one. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Look, it's an amazing thing, right? Netflix's global footprint, they are in every country bar 3. So to open up a store that allows them to service that market, and look, I'd expect they're launching it globally. I wouldn't think that they'd hide it back and say only these markets to start with. But how that then opens up the way, exactly as you said, influencers has the opportunity about how they get to extend that reach and open up some of those opportunities. As an interesting kind of flip around on that, Netflix Australia have commissioned a new series called Byron Baes, Baes, ostensibly an obdoc or reality series all about Instagram influencers in Byron Bay, and they're copping all sorts of heat from the local community about whether or not that's going to happen. I'm not sure if we'll see too many Stranger Thing hoodies on that.
Well, they might be strange, but not Stranger Things. Is that what I'm picking up here? Yeah, I'm looking farther down the road and wondering, when does Netflix make its move? Like, it makes perfect sense to be like, oh yeah, people love The Witcher. Let's make a con. Let's give them high quality merch.
Yep.
People love our anime. Let's give them high quality merch. When are they going to do a theme park or an amusement park or something even smarter than me saying that, where they're like, oh no, theme park, that's a sucker's game. Here's what you do. And they come up with something totally new.
What I'm worried about is the fact that they're playing directly in the game. So there seems to be within fandom kind of two different ways to play. One is to be essentially hands off and let the people who love the thing go nuts with the thing that they love. You see that in a lot of the Star Trek stuff. You know, as long as you're not making, selling ads in the middle of your spinoff or recreation of a Star Trek series, you're going to be fine. A lot of mashup, reimagining and stuff. But now, I mean, once Netflix gets their hooks all the way into this, I can picture a world where you go to Dragon Con and the hot new item is all of a sudden yanked from the shelves because somebody walks around saying, hey, I'm sorry, here's a C&D saying you can't do that because that's our stuff.
Well, but you have the same issue with Star Trek merch, Star Wars merch, Disney merch, and they all have different approaches to it.
None of them have a reputation for trying to maximize. Like all of this feels like they're trying to maximize their fan benefit.
You don't think Disney has a reputation for trying to maximize their fan benefit?
Let me get back to you on that one.
I present to you Galaxy's Edge.
Yeah, but also, well, like,
is what you're saying, everyone expects it from Disney and Viacom CBS, but Netflix still feels like the underdog somehow?
Well, yeah, and also the fact that they're being so efficient, and the only word that pops into my mind is mercenary, and I know that's not the right word for it, but it feels like a Borg-like move into, capture all amounts of fandom. And meanwhile, the stuff that has come beforehand, there's been a little bit more humanity. But again, these are feelings, not thoughts.
I'm looking at this as similar to what all these companies do, where they offer merch for their biggest projects. And what just occurred to me is, how close is this to Disney, Viacom, Warner, etc., and how close is it to Modern Rogue, right? Where you have a store that's selling the kinds of things that people like Modern Rogue want, but you're not just selling like a Modern Rogue t-shirt, right?
Right. Well, and when we do, as a matter of fact, we've had people who have said, I made some Modern Rogue fan art, and then immediately we're like, that's cool. Would you like us to sell it as a shirt? We'll make all the money, but your shirt will be out there. And if they say yes, great. If they say no, great. I feel like,
I mean, that's where the smart money for Netflix is, right?
Exactly.
Something like that builds out.
And that's what I'm suspicious of whether or not Netflix would be cool with.
Yeah, which they may not, but they also may not have the big ban hammer on people who, don't try to sell their own stuff and just make a Dragon Con costume or something.
At the core of it, though, we know why Netflix is doing this, right? It's all data. It's all about the information that they can get as far as the people who are connected to loving series, watching it, because that extension, particularly into the cons and into shops, those kinds of things are reflective of the audience that allow them to go, so yeah, this information that told us that 11 million people watch this series, we'll make another. We'll add in this actor into write them a role, make it be a thing.
Oh, Steve,
because we know that that's the kind of slip we're getting on it.
You just caused me to have the most awful thought where I realized that Netflix is so good at being data driven. I absolutely believe that a particular style or piece of clothing will be written into a show specifically so they can turn around and sell it.
Which shows do all the time.
Correct.
That's not new. Also, if you look at Netflix, you've got T-shirts that say Eden. They're nicely designed. You have influencers like Christopher Kite draws inspiration from his lifetime love of anime. Natalie Nguyen, digital sorceress, finds inspiration in Eden and Yasuke. This is meant to feel like you're going into a boutique fashion shop that happens to be themed around that property you love.
And it might actually be for the best. I know that there are people, for example, that make leather jackets that happen to be themed on the SpaceX astronaut uniform or whatever, and they're just close enough, but not too close, and there's an uneasy
and none of this stuff looks cosplay to me. That was my point.
Right.
This just looks like stuff you might buy off the rack at another store.
They do have some trinkets. Oh, I guess
they've got a couple of figurine kind of things in there. I noticed.
I guess I thought this suit of armor was real sized, but now I'm seeing it as 4.5
I was thinking
inches
it was
tall.
it was like a desktop thing. But
when you turn that suit of armor sideways, it doesn't look like a suit of armor.
I was about to. I wasn't going to be the one to say it, Steve. But I had
that's between you and your suit of armor.
The same
folks.
thought.
We will not.
This is a family show. All right,
It is.
It's between you and your family. Hey folks, be part of the Cordkillers family and support us on Patreon. Patreon.com/Cordkillers is where you go. You get a few perks if you support us, and you get the benefit of knowing you supported us directly. No middleman, right?
Yeah.
Right, Brian?
There's a little bit of a product that we like to sell that we don't think that Netflix has yet. It's called Smug Satisfaction, and it's what you get with just $1 an episode, knowing you're better than everyone else on the planet because you are keeping us loud, live, and independent at patreon.com/Cordkillers.
Yeah, smug, not smog. Help us out. Let's talk about how to watch. The HBO Max app for Apple TV became almost unusable last week after a June 2nd. Oh, it was really bad. It just did not work. The update came on June 2nd. The culprit appeared to be HBO Max switching from using the native tvOS video player. Just a brief look into how this works without getting too technical. Every operating system, the one on your phone, the one on your laptop, the one on your Apple TV, will have some built-in stuff that apps can take advantage of, or they can do it themselves. If you take advantage of the built-in stuff, usually it works very predictably, but it might not have all the features you want. So you might want to build it yourself in order to add some extra whistles and bells. That's what HBO Max did, except their version of the custom player did not work at all. So June 9th, they updated the app to switch back to the native Apple TV OS video player. And it works fine. The question being, not like mystery solved, their own custom app sucked, but what got missed in the QA where they didn't notice any of this stuff? Like that seems like an incredible failure because it wasn't just kind of buggy for some people. Usually when I've seen these on Daily Tech News Show, it's like, oh, it's, 0.01% of people, but because it's so widespread, that's a lot of people. This was everybody. Everybody was like, this thing just doesn't work.
So my question to you, Steve, is if you were a betting person, who lost more money, HBO Max that day or tvOS? like who suffered the greater hit?
Yeah, look, I think that all it will have done is forced HBO Max customers that use it via Apple TV onto other services. So that's a HBO Max loss 100%. But not outside the realms. In my former life, I worked in, IT testing and QA and those sorts of things. That stuff can slip through, but nothing that big. Like the actual app stopping doing the thing that it is meant to do should not have got out of the lab.
For a wide variety of people, right? It's one thing if it's like, we tested it in this condition, but there was like 1% that had this other condition we didn't test for. No, this was very widespread. Like, I just can't imagine how this got out. And don't forget, the Warner Media spinoff hasn't happened yet. This is AT&T's company. Now, granted, not the same developers at AT&T and Warner Media, but yeah, you think they would have been able to make this work a little better. But hey, they did the right thing and they switched it back. Maybe it took a little longer than people would have liked, but it works again now. And if they ever want to do their own custom video player, again, you can expect that they will try to make very sure it works before they put it in.
I'd be intrigued to know why they thought that the tvOS player wasn't good enough. Honestly,
it's not like it's bad. I didn't do enough digging down to find out what the new features were. Usually it's like, oh, we want to do this nifty, cool thing, like Amazon X-Ray, for instance. where it's like that's not built in. So we'll have our own player, or maybe there's a more technical reason, like, oh, it's better for our server communication or something like that. I didn't find out anything about that, but yeah, it's well, they're back to native. Also, Walmart began selling its own ON-branded 4K Android TV device. That's ONN. Costs you $30 for the 4K one. A $25 HD version is still on the way. ON's 4K device is a small black square with Dolby support. The upcoming HD device will be just a streaming stick that you plug in the HDMI port. They both come with a Google reference design remote that has dedicated buttons for Netflix, Disney+, YouTube, and HBO Max.
I suppose I'm a little bit surprised to not hear about any, or maybe there are more bells and whistles than I would expect, or maybe that the margins are better. I would assume that internally there's some kind of discussion about like, hey, somebody's going to ask you for a stick or a box or something. Why don't you guide them on over to the one that makes us slightly more?
Yeah, well, and price $30 for 4K. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
it's going to help people that don't have smart TVs, right? Like it's interesting in Australia. We've only just got the Fire Stick, like Amazon's proprietary bits to land down here officially. I mean, people have been sort of grey marketing them in, but Amazon haven't officially supported it in Australia until recently. But we also have really limited options when it comes to these kinds of things. Yes, we've got the Apple TV. Yes, we've now got the Fire Stick. Beyond that, there's a rebadged version that one of our telcos resells. It's kind of a weird place that we live in over here because there's 26 million of us and 330 million of you. So you can, like, if Walmart sell, 10, 20 million of those, I'd be pretty happy.
Sure.
Yeah. Oh, sure. Yeah. This, in some ways, I look at this and I think this is one of those milestones for streaming devices, which is, you now have Walmart seeing it worth the value to have a house brand streaming stick, right? They're not just, it was one thing when they started stocking Rokus, right? Like, oh, wow, you can buy a Roku at a Walmart. Now it's, hey, we want to have our own house brand of this. It's that much of a staple. We're selling that many of these that it's worth it for us to get into the game. And with Android TV, it's easy. The operating system's all taken care of. You just got to put together the hardware.
Finally, the Dr. Thunder of sticks.
All right, let's talk about what to watch in Under Surveillance.
Like real estate, it's all about location. Under surveillance.
Paramount Plus announced new titles coming this summer. An exclusive, won't be coming to theaters, is the sci-fi movie Infinite, premiering on June 10th. That's the one starring Mark Wahlberg and Chiwetel Ejiofor. Paw Patrol the movie will premiere in theaters and on Paramount Plus at the same time, August 20th. And A Quiet Place Part 2, which is in theaters right now exclusively, will come to Paramount Plus after leaving theaters. Now, it's a 45-day window here in the U.S., but it's going to be different in the different markets. So depending on your local Paramount Plus and theater release schedule, that'll change. Paramount also announced new pricing of $4.99 a month with ads and $9.99 a month without ads. The more expensive tier also includes 4K, Dolby Vision, offline viewing, and on mobile anyway, and live sports and local channels.
Dude, all of this sounds good. I really want to talk about A Quiet Place, but that's a future story here.
I'm looking forward to seeing what Paramount Plus looks like. We don't have it in Australia yet. It's launching in the middle of the year, I think July, August. And until that happens, we have to put up with Viacom CBS wholly owned subsidiary 10 Networks version called 10 All Access, which is not great.
I heard it's 10 some access.
Yeah, it's 10 maybe access.
10 might access. Could access.
Yeah.
Should access.
And the worst part for us here is that anything that's half decent, at least in recent history, has had deals done. So we get a bunch of the real high quality CBS All Access stuff becoming Paramount Plus, although that will stay there, has already landed on other networks or other streamers. So Paramount Plus to launch and work in Australia is going to have a really significant footprint and reason to want to get me to sign up.
Yeah. Netflix announced a number of anime series. This was part of their Geeked Week, where they announced a bunch of stuff. The next Gundam will come to Netflix, called Mobile Suit Gundam Hathaway, with Hathaway Noah leading a rebellion against Earth Federation. No date on that yet. Shaman King comes out August 9th. Eden's Zero, August 26th. They released some teaser art for a horror series called Exception and some art for Bright Samurai Soul. There's also a cold weather horror film called Make My Day. And the series Godzilla Singular Point, which is already out in Japan, will be available globally and dubbed in English starting on June 24th.
So anime is one of those interesting genres where, I'll go ahead and lump horror in there as well, where it's, if you don't offer enough service, you risk people running off to a Shudder or a Jelly Roll or whatever. In this case, I am certain that everybody who is working on these things are trying as hard as possible, but the mercenary in me thinks, just be good enough to keep everyone in the Netflix house. Like keep everybody who's into this, from wanting to press pause on their subscription.
Yeah, I think.
I don't know.
Also, you're right, Bryce. It's Crunchyroll. I said Jelly Roll. Jelly Roll was actually a blues bar here in Austin. That's what I was thinking of.
Where Brian would often watch his Crunchyroll
yes.
episodes while drinking at the Jelly Roll. I think Netflix knows it's not going to compete with Crunchyroll, but it would like to be the other service that the Crunchyroll fan has, because it has Stranger Things and The Witcher and some anime, right? It does that in a lot of these subgenres where it's like, hey, we're going to give you a little bit of what you want. If you want Korean dramas, there's nothing better than Rakuten Viki, but Netflix has some too. In fact, some of the same ones. So might as well keep Netflix around, right? Same thing with anime. I think that's what they're doing here. I don't think they expect to be seen as the source for anime, but having enough of it that people think of it as like, oh, I also need to have Netflix along with whatever else I have.
Yeah, with all this breaking down of services into these small micro services that are very theme specific, do you reckon that we're going to see a quicker move where they just get subsumed by some of these bigger players, where Netflix goes, hey, Crunchyroll, awesome, we're just going to buy you. You and your whole library, you're coming to us.
I think we have seen a lot of that.
Yeah,
and I
Sony
think
did that.
That is my poorly worded proposal was that they're trying to take out insurance to prevent having to make those kind of moves again by keeping everybody generally happy in their ecosystem.
A lot of them are already owned by big players. They're just marketed as
keeping the brand.
It makes you feel like, oh, this is just horror. I'm going to get Shudder, even though it's owned by a big company. It could be rolled into some other service.
Right.
Apple TV Plus released a trailer promoting its summer series. They had some clips from Ted Lasso, a first look at the Foundation series, brief glimpses at Invasion, a comedy from Paul Rudd and Will Ferrell called The Shrink Next Door, and a little look at season 2 of The Morning Show. In fact, there's also a trailer out now for The Morning Show, which is set to premiere on September 17th.
I couldn't tell whether or not all of these were brand new clips I was seeing, or it seemed like a lot of them were sort of just a flex celebration of how awesome they already were. I was left a little bit confused by this. It seemed like something I would see just running in a loop at an E3 booth or something. I didn't know what to make of it.
I mean, the first time I saw this was before watching an Apple TV Plus show. So it's absolutely what it's meant for, is like, hey, folks, in case you were doubting your Apple TV Plus subscription, look at all the stuff that's coming up. You're not going to want to leave.
Yeah.
Not so much, let's tell you something you didn't know about this show.
Yeah, like I think the one that really got me confused was when it said Tom Hanks in Greyhound. I'm like, yeah, that was great. Wasn't that a year ago? What am I? What is this? Yeah.
But like any library-based, well, any service like that has got to remind you what's there, because particularly Apple started off cold, right? They didn't have a whole bunch and they wanted you, and now they're building. Ted Lasso season 2, I think, is going to be phenomenal. I loved that first series so much.
Same.
And having seen the new Morning Wars trailer that came out today, it actually made me feel like Apple need to get some new promo editors, because they just lent in too much to the whole drama of what we, expect is coming from this series. Just ease up a little bit, guys. Don't come in so hot. We want to buy in and we want to see what happens with the new series of The Morning Show, but called Morning Wars here in Australia. But just calm down. Calm down, you guys.
But yeah, leave us a little. I mean, I definitely came out of it with some questions of like, oh, wait, Steve Carell's still in it. Okay. You know, what's his part really going to be? And what is Jennifer Aniston's character going to do? Like, that's an interesting question, but I know what you mean.
Apart from
it was
leave
very
the show,
much,
yeah.
like you don't need to watch the first episode necessarily after watching that trailer. Little tidbit here. Marvel Studios EVP of production, Vittoria Alonso, talked about the Disney Plus animated series What If in a panel on Monday and showed a clip. It's not posted online, but apparently showed a clip of Peggy Carter transforming into Captain Britain with some appearances by Steve Rogers and Howard Stark. This is animated, so they just need the voices of these folks. So it gives them a lot more latitude to be able to include folks. That series is expected to come out sometime this summer. Don't have a date on it yet.
Yeah, and I would go so far as to say as they don't even need the voices, as we just watched with MODOK. They just grabbed
If they
somebody.
can't get them. Yeah, why not?
Exactly. I mean, at that point, you don't care. What If was always one of my favorite stories. Without being too spoilery, because we're going to talk about Loki later on, What If is very freewheeling in its multiverse of ideas, one might say. It sounds like Loki is not, so I'm really curious to see how they spin everything in that regard.
It's going to be great. I'm keen to see this. I am enjoying Marvel's incarnation on Disney Plus, particularly the episodic stuff that they're doing. Mind you, hanging out for Black Widow. Cannot wait to see that film.
Yeah.
First trailer for Netflix's Masters of the Universe Revelation is out, arriving July 23rd. If you don't know much about this yet, Mark Hamill voices Skeletor, and Kevin Smith is running the show, picking up the story where the original series from the 80s left off.
Sure, it'll be great.
Buy more toys.
I mean, they are explicitly working with Mattel to reflect the style of the toys. I don't know that shocks anyone for me to say that, but yes.
I mean, that's also the origin of the original series was they would walk into a room,
Absolutely.
they would throw a toy, and they would just say, his name's Trapjaw, make a story. And it's like, okay.
What should we call this man with arms? Man in arms.
Yes, exactly.
Right. This guy's sort of a He-Man. Call him He-Man. Few other notes here. The Disney Plus She-Hulk series starring Tatiana Maslany has cast Jamila Jamil from The Good Place. We don't know what her role will be, but was described as major by Variety. See, the Apple TV show, has been approved for a third season ahead of the premiere of season 2 on Apple TV Plus August 27th. Paramount Plus released some images and a cast list for Star Trek Prodigy. That's the one about the kids who commandeer a derelict Federation vessel, and there's an emergency training hologram of Catherine Janeway, which will be voiced, of course, by the original Catherine Janeway. Production has begun on a 6-part series from Netflix about the rise of Spotify. Netflix released the first 5 minutes of its anime Resident Evil: Infinite Darkness, coming July 8th. Yes, there's a helicopter crash in it. And season 2 of I Think You Should Leave with Tim Robinson has a date, arriving July 6th.
Would it be fair to compare Star Trek Prodigy to kind of the Clone Wars of Star Trek universe? Would that be artistically speaking?
Maybe, yeah. Or even Rebels, because Rebels was avowedly 7+, and I think Prodigy is meant to be all ages essentially, but targeted towards kids.
But I definitely may have watched all of I Think You Should Leave 3 more laps since the last time we discussed it. I enjoyed it very much.
Yeah, I absolutely cannot wait. And because it's on Netflix, I will watch all of it immediately. I will not be waiting.
Yes. As quickly as you can.
You're a fan too?
Yeah, look, I'm a big fan, and I'm really keen to see where Star Trek Prodigy, also just to jump back, where that fits and how all of that plays in. I love the introduction of Janeway as a captain of note who I think fans of a certain era of Star Trek will love, but to have her as the emergency training sort of video process for them, beautiful touch.
One last question on She-Hulk. If we're placing our bets, is Jamila Jamil a villain or BFF in this?
Villain.
She's a bad girl.
It's got to be a villain, right?
Yeah, villain. Yep. All right, let's talk about what we've had our eyes on. Something that we've been watching, we want to share with the group. Steve, what have you been watching?
I've been deep in Sweet Tooth, the new Netflix DC Comics-based fantasy series about this new, kind of pandemic. You might not have heard about it. Rocked the world. A whole bunch of people died. And about the same time, these hybrid humans started being born. As we can see here, Gus, who is the center of the story, is part deer, part human. Raised as a normal boy otherwise. He has exceptional hearing, smelling, and big ears and antlers sticking out his head. It is an incredible tale. My wife and my 14-year-old daughter and I absolutely smashed through this series and cannot wait for season 2 to come. It is delightful. It is emotional. And I think the thing that I loved about it is that not just the connections to, of course, modern day, reflecting the idea of COVID and how it's affected us, but the hope that it represents. It's so delightful. What a great series.
We were just talking, my wife and I, just the other day, we came up on our Netflix recommendations. We're like, we got to start that. So this is a good nudge to get to watching.
This was the first thing recommended after I finished Jupiter's Legacy, and I almost hit go, but I was like, I have so much more TV to watch.
I thought you were going to say I almost hit go, but you're like, wait, if it's thinking I liked Jupiter's Legacy.
No, actually, and we'll talk about that too, but largely, spoiler alert, I did enjoy it.
All right, good.
Not as much as I
don't know
love
if it will turn you on or off, but Will Forte is a lead character in the opening episode, and delightful turn by him.
Excellent.
Right on. Tom, what are you watching?
I am watching, well, I'm not watching. I watched my first movie in a theater since February 2020, A Quiet Place, a theater. It's this place where they put a bunch of seats in a room together.
What kind
and
of
then
place
more
is
than
it?
one person goes in. Sometimes you don't even know who they are. And you just sit and you watch the movie on this really, really big screen.
Sounds like a lounge room.
I watched A Quiet Place Part 2 in that very place that you're describing there. It was, I mean, to get to the COVID part out of the way, there were good protocols. You had to keep your mask on unless you were actively eating. They had restricted number of people in there. It was a small theater with the reclining seats. So we had no one even near us, which was the best part of it. COVID or not COVID, is like not having anybody leaning up against you. But there were other people in the room. And so watching A Quiet Place Part 2 was fun because you got that moment where like it is dead silent and no one's even touching their M&Ms or their popcorn. And then there's the jump scare and everybody squeals together.
Right.
And I will say A Quiet Place Part 2 worked. I wasn't sure if they could pull it off again because it's like, okay, we've been through this once. But they did a great job in execution and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know that I would enjoy it unless I'd seen the first one, but having seen the first one, I definitely enjoyed the second one.
So I got halfway through and everyone could tell me whether or not I should finish it. Bo Burnham's Inside. It seemed sad in a way that made me sad. And I'm like, aren't you funny? And then I just felt sad. And then all of a sudden I got distracted because we're launching our new original series, World's Greatest Con. So if you go to worldsgreatestconpodcast.com or what's funny is after buying that, Justin figured out that for over almost a year, he's owned Greatest Con Podcast.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It's so long and it's so similar to a podcast network that I accidentally typed in at first.
Here's the thing. There are 4 episodes in season 1. We're going to release the RSS feed tonight with episodes 1 and 2. I'm also going to make public the video version of episode 1. This is the secret project that Justin and I have been working on for 7.5, 8 months. I'm really, really excited about it. Some of you may think it's a story you've heard before, but you ain't heard it like this, and you certainly haven't heard the parts that I've shared.
No, man, I am relieved that you can say it out loud, and I've only just known about it. I haven't even been working on it. I can't imagine how you guys feel being able to like let it out of the world.
Yeah.
It was really subtle how you just, wedged it in there like no one would have seen it coming.
All right, Bryce, what should we be on the lookout for?
Hey, Cliff sent in a pic on a service we don't talk about much. Cliff writes, "Hi, Killers. I don't remember you mentioning the show before. It is Pennyworth on the Epix subscription streaming service. It is a dark comedy / action origin story for Alfred Pennyworth of Batman fame. It is set in 1960s England. Alfred is a young British SAS veteran who works as security at a club with a few army buddies. He does side jobs that take advantage of his special skills learned in the SAS. He gets mixed up with a CIA agent named Thomas Wayne. The show seems to take place in a slightly alternate history universe and comes off as a kind of a Marvel version of a James Bond story. So far, there's been one season, and it is entertaining and different. Hopefully, they make more seasons of the show. Cliff, thanks, Cliff. Yeah, they, is there two? I'm seeing 2 seasons. Maybe the second season is not out. No, it definitely looks like there's 2 seasons of Pennyworth. So, thank you, Cliff. Check out Pennyworth on Epix. EPIX. I believe there are 20 episodes and 2 seasons now. If you've got some,
the last time we mentioned Pennyworth on the show was June 10th, 2019. And that was just as an example of the kind of shows you could get on Epix. Yeah.
Well, if you've got something we should be on the lookout for, please email it to us, cordkillers@gmail.com. Thank you.
Excelente. Well, Brian, when you're not making World's Greatest Con, how do you spend your time on a computer making content? With what computer?
My goodness, psych! I just tricked you. What systems do you think we use to make World's Greatest Con? Podcast.com. We went to
the smoothest transitions in the business, my friends.
Oh my goodness.
we use doghousesystems.com/rogue. They're the people who provided all of the equipment for the show. Please support them because they support us, and also go subscribe because the RSS is available.
Oh my God.
Wow.
Great. It's going great.
Wow.
And now the segment next, lines front, be will.
Front lines.
Samba TV is one of the companies that does analysis. In their case, they do analysis of anything connected to a smart TV, whether it's the apps on the smart TV or like a Roku plugged into it. Samba TV estimates that Loki reached 890,000 households in the U.S. on day one, making it the largest U.S. premiere day audience for any Marvel Disney Plus show, according to Samba's records. A view for Samba means someone watched on a smart TV device, so either the TV or the plugged-in device, for at least 5 minutes, but does not count mobile or laptops.
Well-deserved, and it's very hard for me to not want to talk just about Loki for the next 20 minutes. So instead, Steve, unless you have something to chime in on, I'm going to go on to the next item.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later.
Okay, good. A Quiet Place Part 2 became the first movie to pass $100 million at the box office in the U.S. since March of 2020 with $108 million. Those are American dollars, Steve. It was the first major theater exclusive release in months and will head to streaming in 45 days. Godzilla vs. King Kong, which launched on HBO Max at theaters at the same time, is just behind it with $99.6 million. In the Heights had a simultaneous release in theaters and HBO Max, bringing in $11.4 million, short of the estimated $20 million that they were expecting. Does that make it a flop, guys, or is that just this crazy world that we're in?
It's hard to say. In the Heights is an interesting one because it wasn't expected to make a lot because it's a niche movie, but it still missed the expectations, right? So now the crunching begins of like, does this tell us that this kind of audience for a Lin-Manuel Miranda musical event still doesn't want to leave the house or prefers to watch on HBO Max if it's available? Like it's kind of hard to tell why you're having such a difference there. There certainly was a boost to A Quiet Place Part 2 by not being available any other way, because Godzilla vs. Kong theoretically would be about the same, and it's been out for a few more weeks than A Quiet Place Part 2, but it hasn't quite caught up with it yet.
Yeah, I reckon that you have to think that 8.6 million is tucked away in HBO Max numbers, right? Surely. That said, I have heard some reviews from some friends that said while it was good, you just kept expecting to hear, a Hamilton song bust out, and it didn't. And they were just kind of caught off guard.
You're talking about
that
A Quiet Place, right?
Thing. Yeah.
Yes, of course.
I'm not throwing away.
And then you're like, why wasn't there a Hamilton song right there? No. It makes sense. In the Heights would be a thing. I tend to think it's a combination of people saying like, well, I don't need to see that in the theater. You know, like it doesn't have huge special effects.
My
Maybe
daughter
the music
is
could be
a
better.
tremendous fan of Hamilton and Lin-Manuel Miranda's work. I texted her saying, hey, it's out right now. I don't know if she went and saw it. And I don't know if that's a case where it had been just hyped for, that felt like a last year hype thing or what.
Didn't they release the first 8 minutes, the opening number, on YouTube?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know if that worked.
Maybe that people are like, that's it. That's all I needed. That's great. Thank you. I'm done. The Google TV software interface overlying some Android TV devices. It's a prettier, nicer designed interface for Android TV. Now lets you choose Sling TV as one of the live TV viewing guide options. In fact, it's the second option. They used to not give you an option. Previously, you could only use YouTube TV for the live guide. If you don't realize, Google TV has a special live TV tab. You could obviously open any app and get its own guide, but this was a tab that would pull in the guide without you having to open the app. If you just wanted to quickly check what was on, give you a traditional grid like you'd get on any cable TV service. And so now if you're a Sling TV user, you can say, make my live TV guide tab show Sling TV, not YouTube TV.
Meanwhile, the Apple TV Plus app is coming to NVIDIA Shield and streaming boxes. The Shield runs Android. The Apple TV Plus gives users access to Apple TV Plus shows, purchase content from Apple, and any channels like Showtime or AMC Plus that have been purchased as an add-on.
Yeah. NVIDIA Shield users are very passionate.
They are.
And this is smart for Apple to cater to them.
Yes. In fact, I believe there's an internal memo that says, cater to them before they write Cordkillers. And for that, we say, thank you.
I fully expect us to get the email saying something about NVIDIA Shield that we didn't mention just now because we mentioned NVIDIA Shield at all. So
yes.
Pretend I said that thing. All right. If you were wondering about the name of the eventual spin-off company that will merge Discovery and Warner Media next year, it will be called Warner Brothers Discovery.
All right.
Oh, that, friends, is the outcome of like a 4-hour long lunch.
I think that may be underestimating. Yeah, it might have even been longer. But
lots of booze.
I mean, it says what it is. They once called it AOL Time Warner. Now it's going to be Warner Brothers Discovery. Like,
I like that the tagline.
I just look forward to John Oliver shitting all over it.
I like that the tagline is in lowercase Arial, and it's the stuff that dreams are made of. And there's no punctuation. There's no like embellishment. The stuff that dreams are made of.
And the way that you said it, Bryce, it sounded like, the nerdy guy off The Simpsons. The stuff that dreams are made of. It's like this afterthought that keeps
I wasn't putting a voice
happy.
on it, but okay.
but if you heard it, then yeah, it's there.
That is from the Maltese Falcon. The stuff that dreams are made of. So obviously they're trying to evoke Humphrey Bogart's understated way of speaking, Bryce.
Yes. Apologies.
Everyone knows Humphrey Bogart spoke in Ariel.
Famously adverse to punctuation as well.
Hated punctuation.
He hates it.
Had it in all his comments.
Look at it. They put it in damn
He'd
paragraph.
He'd rather punctuation.
It also kind of fades into the clouds.
It's okay.
This is a low quality JPEG, Tom. Let's be a little easy.
Are we sure that's the
God,
official logo?
It is. I've seen it.
It's the stuff that dreams are made of.
Stuff that dreams are made of.
It's the stuff that dreams.
Also,
All right, let's get on.
one more thing. If we're picking on it, look at the foreshortening. It doesn't even center up. It's like off center for some reason. Well, it's fine.
Yeah,
to show that they're edgy. They're not,
okay.
Not square.
Dispatches from the front.
Just like what he said. Always good to hear from B. Lissa. B. Lissa writes, you keep talking about the Friends reunion, so I thought I'd share some trivia with you might be interested in. My son used to work at the Lego store. He told me the Friends Central Perk Lego set that went on sale in 2019 set records for how fast it sold out. Lego was so impressed by its popularity that they made another set that came out just last week, June 1st, That one has the kitchens and living rooms of both apartments and the hallway in between. It's bigger and pricier than the first one, and I don't have any sales data except that it's practically sold out on Amazon. I don't know what this says about our culture, but it's clear Friends has a massive fandom. Love the show, your boss, Belissa.
I love how I hear each individual detail and I'm like, oh man, it sounds like Friends is a big deal. And then I finished the thought and I thought, yeah, whoa, newsflash, Friends is a big deal.
Friends is a real big deal. Yeah. But I think it's a reaction to us having some skepticism expressed on the show about how many people would be interested in a Friends reunion. And it's like, well,
correct. I think that's more of us in our age demographic than anything else.
It's the first wave of new nostalgia, right? It's the show that we remember being on air that we now care about, wondering what happened to those guys. And let me tell you, as an adult fan of Lego myself, oof, that's happening.
Yeah. All right. Send us pics once you've got it assembled.
I don't know if I have an answer for this one. Hopefully you do, Tom. Everyone is making a big deal about James Bond films and the MGM Amazon deal, but nobody's mentioning the classic MGM musicals. Is that because they're not part of the deal? I remember Turner bought those rights years ago. Are they part of HBO Max? Where's that Turner stuff ending up? Or are they on Paramount Plus? Hard to keep track. Bye-bye, John from New Jersey.
I understand why you're asking this, John. We're not speaking about James Bond so much in the library content of Sean Connery as we are about the ability to make new films that will bring in $500 million. That's why James Bond keeps getting brought up in relation to MGM Amazon. Not that the James Bond library isn't also a big deal to add to Amazon, but the musicals would be too. It's just that you're not as likely to make $300 to $500 million by making a new version of, The Music Man. I don't even know if that's an MGM one. But you are by making a new James Bond film is printing money, basically.
Yeah. That's actually the plot device of the next James Bond movie. Somebody who wants to print money.
Prints money.
James Bond all over it.
Yeah, and it turns out that it's Amazon. That's the villain, which is weird. They might change that.
Joe writes in with the question: do you guys know what the current situation with Apple TV Plus pricings is? I bought a few Apple products over the last year. I have no idea when they're going to start charging me money for Apple TV Plus. Is it just for free for device purchasers? Also, when are they going to start asking me for money right before Ted Lasso comes back?
The short answer, Joe, is they will ask you for money right before Ted Lasso comes back, most likely. If you want to know how much longer you have on your free trial, you can go into your settings, click on your name, and then click on subscriptions, go to Apple TV Plus, and it'll tell you, like, this is paid, this is good through this date. But it has been confusing because they kept extending it during the pandemic. It was only supposed to be like a year, and then they're like, oh, we're going to give everybody an extra 3 months. Oh, we're going to give them an extra 6 months. Then they introduced new bundles where some people bought the bundle for other reasons and then got Apple TV thrown into that. I looked it up for you, Joe. On the Apple website, it says, if you buy an Apple device, Apple TV Plus is included free for 1 year. A monthly subscription is $4.99 a month after a free 7-day trial if you don't get the free 1 year with the device. And Apple TV Plus is included in Apple One, which is one of those bundles I was just mentioning, which bundles up 5 other Apple services into a single monthly subscription. So if you bought a device, if you buy a device now and you never had a free subscription to Apple TV Plus, you'll get it for a year. It's back to just being a year.
I think you only get 3 months right now, Tom. I hate to be that guy, but it looks like you only get 3 months.
I'm just saying what Apple says on their website.
I'm on an Apple terms and conditions page.
Well, I wrote down the word Apple, so I think we're all on the same footing here.
Because I think they're pairing it back, because I think they're throwing in like Apple Arcade and stuff. Because like I got a new phone and I didn't get Apple TV Plus, but I did get Apple Arcade for a few months.
You know what? You're right. I was accessing an older version of the page. Thank you, Bryce. Eligible devices activated July 1st, 2021 or later will qualify for offers of 3 months free Apple TV Plus. Eligible devices activated on June 30th or earlier will qualify for offers of 12 months. So you've got until July 1st if you haven't had this. Pertaining to Joe, though, if you already have it free, you don't get it again. Like once the free runs out, you're done.
Yeah, but more importantly, pertaining to Steve, where could we see so much more of your beautiful work, sir?
The best place, friends, is tvblackbox.com.au. We'll give you all that you need to see. Otherwise, you could subscribe either to the TV Black Box podcast, comes out weekly, or the TV Binge Box podcast, where on the former, we talk about the business of television and what's happening. On TV Binge Box, we talk about the things you should be watching.
This sounds
what
familiar.
an amazing concept.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's a boy, if it weren't summer over here and if it weren't winter over there, I think we'd have a fight.
Because we do the opposite. We have a show that we talk about shows, and then we also have a show where we talk about the business of it. See, it's
Right.
the reverse of what you have. Yeah.
Yeah, it's completely different. Upside down.
If people want to find where you are, where should they go?
Wait, he
I'm
just
at
said
Steve Molk. No, that's with the thing. But otherwise, I'm at Steve Molk on all of the socials. That's what you want to care about, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And tvblackbox.com.au.
Yeah, stuff.
Sure.
TV Black Box.
But yeah.
Something.
People want the real Steve Monk. Our
Yeah,
website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. We're live on twitch.tv/Night Attack. Also carried on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you next time.
Hey, Tom Merritt.
Yes, Brian Brushwood.
Know who I love even more than my own children?
Your other children?
No, not my wife. I know what you're saying. I love our $5 patrons. These are the people that keep us loud, live, and independent. Thank you so much, $5 patrons.
You know what? I love them more than not life itself, because then I'd be dead and I couldn't appreciate them, but really, really, really close. And I'm so thankful that they are here to make this show happen.
Thank you so much to all of our $5 a month patrons. You guys are wizards. You're champions.
Thank you, everyone.
You're heroes.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.